Welcome back to another video. How are you? I hope you're well. It is finally sunny here in Scotland. Whew. Now, as the title might suggest, today's video is about baking. More specifically about how I bit off more than I can chew and have potentially angered some professional French pastry chefs. For about a year, I've had a lovely vegan opera cake recipe saved on my phone by the wonderful Tom over at Project Vegan Baking. And I thought I will at last give it a try. And because I love making a fool of myself, or I just don't care, I'll film it and send it out into the void. This is not an invitation for critique. As a fan of opera and chocolate and cream-based desserts, 'tis a cake that I have long desired, but when I've seen it in shops, etc., something that I can't necessarily buy because it has cream in it and I can't eat cream. So when I was lucky enough to stumble across this recipe by Tom, I thought, yes, one day I will make it, and this week was that day. Grammar. For those of you who don't know, opera cake is a coffee chocolate cream layered cake. It's normally very delicate, made up of thin sponge layers with a chocolate ganache and a coffee cream. Gets its name from being served during the interval of an opera back in the day en France, where the little kick of caffeine would help you get through the final acts. I'd like to hope that it's still served on the continent. One of my dreams is to go back to France one day and have an opera cake in an actual French opera house. When I went to the opera in Latvia, I can't remember having any opera cake, but I did also run out of money the day we arrived in Latvia, so probably couldn't afford it. Anyway, we don't serve opera cake in local opera theatres in England, or I've not been to the opera in Scotland because of lockdown. Anyway, that's getting off the point. I tried to make an opera cake. It was vegan. And in order to tell the tale of how I have potentially infuriated all of the patisseries across France, we're going to need to travel back to yesterday and voiceover Josie. Not that far back. Yes, to the point where I was awake. Fantastic. Over to you, voiceover Josie. Hello, it's voiceover Josie. Now we're going to start by making the sponge. So we've got gluten-free flour, some coconut flour, caster sugar, I'm using a golden caster sugar, soy milk, cider vinegar, baking powder and baking soda, and vegetable oil, because this is vegan, so we're not using any eggs or butter. The recipe does call for an almond flour, which is traditional to an opera cake, but I'm using a coconut flour because it's all I could find, and why not change it up a bit? Set the oven alight and start mixing together the ingredients. We're going to start off by measuring out the milk. And the cider vinegar. Now what you're essentially doing here is creating a buttermilk. Wish I could explain the science to you, but I don't know it. Give it a swirl and set it aside to curdle for 5 minutes. Whilst that's curdling away, measure out your dry ingredients. Now, I wish I could find some music on the YouTube audio library that I liked for this section, because to be honest, it would be more dynamic than me just talking and then awkwardly pausing. But the way my brain works, I need to hear the music first and then create the visuals. And there's a lot of dance and electronica on the audio library, which isn't really my vibe. I didn't think you'd want to, see someone make a cake with the in the background. I could sing you a song. Would you want to hear that? Anyway. Once you've got all the dry ingredients, don't forget a pinch of salt. I forgot that. until the very last minute, but it's okay. Me just realising that I needed to make certain things visible to the camera. My body gets very confused because my family are convinced that I'm left-handed, but I was taught to do everything with my right, and it's a whole palaver. Now, measure out the vegetable oil on the scales, not in a jug, and add it to the now curdled vinegar milk mix and give it a stir with a whisk. It shouldn't take long to combine, especially when you speed it up by 250%. And then just add it to the dry ingredients and whisk it up. Tom says this should take 30 seconds, and it's very satisfying to do. Maybe it's one of the benefits of not having any eggs or chunky bits of butter, that the ingredients combine really, really easily and you don't have to worry about over whipping eggs. I didn't speed this up at all. I do have some rather bizarre whisking techniques, I'm aware, and also sleeves that like to fall down constantly. But what you'll end up with is something with the consistency of custard. Did anyone else have Angel Delight as a child? Yes, this was the moment I realised I'd forgotten to pre-line my baking sheets, so we'll do that now, and we're about to come up to the first section where professional patisserie chefs might get a bit annoyed at me. But I'm an amateur. I did do a lot of baking as a child, but you know, this kitchen isn't designed for this kind of thing. So, choose your fighter to lay out the mixture on the baking sheets. Now, this is a layer cake, so we're trying to making some really thin breads. No, the cakes. I'm really tired. Yeah, so I just ladled the mixture on, and then I'm gonna try and spread it out and do whatever. It didn't develop a skin, but it certainly wasn't as runny as it seemed when it was in the bowl. So I'm just spreading it out with my spatula, and hopefully it's okay. I mean, I know whether it's okay now, but I'd like to leave some surprises. So this should be enough for 4 layers, at least I was thinking. Popped in the oven, and of course, if you're using a gas oven, like I am, it won't take 12 to 15 minutes like the recipe recommends. It will take half an hour, and, you know, swapping them all around. As you can see, they're kind of cooked fairly evenly after a bit of work, but you're going to want to then leave them on the side to cool down for about 2 hours. Whilst you're waiting for them to cool, why not go outside, chop a massive tree branch down, go to Sainsbury's, buy a meal deal, watch James Turner play a video game, play a video game yourself. And after all that, maybe start working on the syrup that you're going to soak the sponges in. Now, this is a simple syrup, so it's just water and sugar. Heat it up until it is simmering, or whatever the right word is, and you'll measure out some coffee. Thank goodness I'm not picky about coffee, because I'll always have this Americano on hand. Nescafe is evil. Make sure to keep checking the syrup as it boils though, so that the sugar doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. When it looks like this, take it off the heat and add in the coffee. Give it another stir again. There is quite a lot of stirring involved in this. Riveting stuff. I'm sure we're all terribly excited. Pour it into a cup and leave it to cool as well. Look at that. Simple syrup. Nice and sweet. Another I'm sorry patisserie chefs. I'm sure you're supposed to do this with a pipette or squeezy bottle thing, but I don't have them, so I'm just using a spoon to distribute all of the syrup onto both cakes with a spoon, massaging it in, and you'll just leave that to soak in gently. It doesn't look fantastic, if I'm honest. I think it looks super gross, but it's a layer cake. It is what it is. Whilst that's soaking in, we can move on to the buttercream and the ganache. This is for the buttercream, so we're using more coffee, vanilla bean extract, no, vanilla bean paste, ooh. And our friend, the naturally vegan block. Yes, it's vanilla bean paste because this is a vegan recipe and we are bougie. I'm very happy to see that the food processor has a small whisk attachment, which is fantastic for making buttercream and means I don't have to waste all my energy trying to do this by hand. Hilariously, at this point, not only did I run out of energy, but so did my camera and my phone. But we keep going. So peaceful. So peaceful. It was totally worth it though, because this is delicious and the food processor did a lovely job of blending it all up. It's a great coffee buttercream for other things. Now for the ganache. Simple, chocolate and cream. Now I got my chocolate from Lidl and you need 300 grams for the recipe, but it comes in 200 gram blocks, so I have extra for me. Checking that it's veganish and handily, thank you Europe, it has 10 gram sections on it, so it's dead easy to section up. Makes it easier to chop too, but I'm not going to put you through that. Just going to put it in the pan. The jar of cream is 250 mils or grams or whatever, but you only need 200, so pop a little hat on it, save it in the fridge for later. Make sure the chocolate doesn't burn on the stove. And you'll end up with a gloriously glossy, satiny ganache. I felt very professional having done this. It's not matte. And then we come to it. 'Tis time for construction. Yes, so I'm so sorry. This is probably the worst bit to watch if you are a professional baker. I completely forgot to line this tin like some kind of moron, but as I was trying to say earlier, I completely ran out of energy trying to make a really complicated cake in a kitchen that didn't want to have a cake made in it, whilst trying to film it all at once. It was a little bit too much for me to handle, but it's fine. Yeah, I really wasn't sure how precious to be about how I deposited the ganache and the buttercream on the inside of this. I think it looks more like a cake lasagna. Much more the Women's Institute tent at your local village fete than something that they would serve at the Grand Opera House in the capital. But it's fine, and spoiler alert, we save it later. It looks so much better. But yeah, I'm just going to show you all of it because it's kind of the same thing over and over again, and yeah, it's a bit offensive to those people who like things done properly. Hey ho. I still managed to get it done. You know, I could have put it on pause and done it over 2 days, but it's going to go in the fridge for about 12 hours. There's our leftover cream to pour on the slices later. And yeah, just leave it overnight and obsessively stare at your garden plants. Just before I went to sleep, I realised that I'd forgotten to line this tin. But thankfully, because it's mostly cream, you know, ganache and buttercream, it's dead easy to get out. And we're going to clean it up, so it doesn't matter if I make it look a bit gross now. So look, it looks as horrible as my midge-bitten cheek. But we're going to do a professional trick here. We're going to heat up the knife. Yeah, don't burn yourself. You know, be safe. But this is going to help cut through all those layers really, really smoothly. Just listen to that. Very satisfying. And yeah, you're going to cut around all of the edges, so it's going to look fabulous anyway at the end. And look at that. Those layers don't look as awful as they did when I was constructing them. Very, very fancy. I'm really pleased with myself. And that brings us to today. I made the mistake of cutting it and trying a slice. At the same time, I'd made myself a large coffee, so I am over-caffeinated. That's okay. It'll give me spoons for the rest of the day. Relatively pleased with how it came out, so I'm going to parcel up a small slice and deliver it to my neighbour. Hopefully she likes it too. As I said, it's definitely more of a WI tent attempt at a cake rather than the delicate thing you really should get served at the opera. But you know, it went well, it's tasty. The coffee buttercream is amazing and I will definitely be making that again. I'm so pleased that the stand mixer has that whisk attachment. And yeah, I now have a lovely kind of mid-morning snack. Fantastic stuff. I'm hoping my dad will come to see me at the start of July, so I think we'll make this together because he is also a fan of cream and coffee. But that's all for this week, and I will see you next time. Opera cake, we're going to make an opera cake, 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 an opera cake. I need to stop doing this.